How long was it before you started seeing all these other competitors pop up, like Triple Canopy, MVM, Dyncor? Were you were first, correct?
No, Dyncor was kind of the established State Department contractor. They'd been doing all that service stuff to that kind of that installed customer base. But as the Afghan issue flared and then Iraq flared, it so outstripped their ability to grow. And I would characterize Dyncor as a very typical Beltway run company, and quite bureaucratic and quite perfect for the State Department. And when the, I would say, very urgent and very compelling needs for more security, right? Because it was on. It was dangerous times in Baghdad when all that, when they started asking for it. I mean, we were contacted originally by the DoD after the senior UN diplomat in Baghdad had been blown up the summer of 2003. Right? They blew him up with a truck bomb inside of a concrete mixer. It was like a 2,000 pounder.
Wow.
And so all the people in Washington said, okay, it's real now. And I remember we had immediately had two people that went out with Bremer, and his original detail was from some National Guard unit. And they just hadn't really had the training or the equipment or the wherewithal to accomplish that mission. And the Secret Service came out because they thought they were going to assign the Secret Service to do that mission. And they had no way are they, the Secret Service mentality is they can shut down everything around their protectee and create a huge bubble, and just lock down entire roads, entire routes, and they just own it all. But you can't really do that in an active war zone. And so you had to have a bubble that could move and flex and go with it. So between the ground element and the aviation element, no federal agency wanted to touch it, and so the State Department turned to us, and we did it. So
One of the one of the fascinating things about you that I find is you don't mind getting your hands dirty. And so when the CIA contract was starting up, you were out there on the ground running operations, correct?
yeah, it was one of the first 18.
Yeah. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? What that was like being it's your company, you're on the ground running missions and
I look, it was a great honor that they turned to us because it was a very important mission, right? Because the CIA is the ones who made that victory possible for the United States, right? And let me digress a minute and say, and this goes in keeping with what I've been saying for the last 10 years at least. After 9/11, while the Pentagon was still smoldering, right? Bush goes to meet with his national security cabinet at Camp David. And the Pentagon, you know what their best option was to go to Afghanistan? They wanted to do bombs, missiles in a Ranger raid, and they wanted to wait 6 months until the following April and do a conventional mechanized invasion of Afghanistan via Pakistan. That is what the United States military came with, the most expensive military on the planet. It was the agency, it was Cofer Black and his team. Cofer was the head of the Counterterrorism Center. And because of his experience doing unconventional warfare, hybrid warfare against Soviet targets in Libya and Chad and Angola and the DRC in the 80s, he said, Mr. President, give us the authorities and $1 billion, and in 3 weeks the flies will be walking on the eyeballs of our enemies. Right? So and obviously Bush made the right decision and said, okay, we're doing that. That's why we had such a lightning victory in Afghanistan. It was 100 soft guys and agency guys carnivores let off leash, backed by air power, and they smashed the hell out of the Taliban. And the Taliban and Al Qaeda were truly running for their lives. And that worked for 8 months until Bagram became a saluting zone, and you had all the conventional officers show up. Okay, when the no beard policy starch camis goes into effect, we repeated that same failure for 19 and a half years. If they'd kept it small, if Bush had the discipline and the foresight to say, no, Pentagon, you don't get to go play now, leave this to that. We're not doing nation building, but we will play whack-a-mole severely. The Afghans would have understood that. And it would be vastly better there today than it is truly a terror sanctuary. Again, you have the Haqqanis that have high bounty terrorists now running the Afghan government. Is the Interior Minister.
Did you enjoy running Blackwater as a CEO more, or running operations under the CIA contract?
Both.
Both?
Sure. It was a macro and a micro.
How were you doing that simultaneously?
The management team of Blackwater was spectacular, right? So I might be the guy that put the money up that made Blackwater possible, but it was Gary Jackson and Danielle Morrison and Bill Matthews and Chris Burgess and Jeff Gibson and all that team that made it run. And there's 100 other names I should list, but they ran the business. And there was a reason, right? The normal Beltway thing would be, first of all, nobody had invested in a training facility, right? Like the Dyncors, everybody would have a security contract for the government, and they'd try to rent this range over here or this track, and they'd have to send medical over here and all the rest. And so, in keeping with what I was talking about, with a lean progression, right? Recruit, vet, equip, train, deploy. Blackwater was designed to be a machine with everything in-house, literally within walking distance. And so hopefully you experienced that when you were recruited, the training, the equipment, the medical, all was pretty damn close to each other.
Yeah.
Right? So we didn't lose days or weeks moving people through that process. And so that management team was able to efficiently produce a product, meaning a trained and equipped guy to go do something, or an aircraft that could do XYZ job, or a construction crew to do something. They did that in a concise, organized, disciplined way, vertically integrated.
It's just, I just don't understand how, I mean, because those are some intricate operations
Yeah.
that we're doing out there.
But we recruited from people that had done intricate operations. I remember I flew over on the one time the USG provided airlift for us to send aircraft to Iraq was the first time. And so we got our little birds that were going to go do the protection for then Bremer. We loaded them in Charleston, South Carolina, and flew over up in the top deck of the C-5 with the guys. And we land at like 2 o'clock in the morning after the blacked out approach into Baghdad, and the guys are offloading the stuff. And a bunch of them were TF-160 veterans, many of whom had been at Black Hawk Down just 10 years before in their career. And they said, Mr. P, thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to do this again. This is what we're good at.
Wow.
And that was the great thing about running whatever Blackwater, is giving people that were really good, right? The Michael Jordans of their skill set, giving them a chance to do that again. So they get to work with people they like to work with. They're paid well for their job and the risks that they take. They're given the right equipment in a no bullshit environment. That was my goal with BW.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.